A whole 12 months ago, I sat in front of this very mic, sweaty slightly, overthinking everything, and wondering would anyone ever listen to a podcast I was about to create. And yet here we are, my loves. I literally a whole year later, the 12th of December is when this is out. 12th of December 2024, I started the Loudlands. And I got the stats today from Spotify. So I thought, no, what a great time to announce that it's 1 year, but also talk about them. So according to Spotify, I was one of the most shared, most talked about, and most marathon listened shows, one of them in 2025. So to every single person who whispered, what the F is Khandie doing now? Or can you believe she's got a podcast, babes? I'm still here one whole year later. Now, welcome to the 1 year episode, anniversary episode, I guess you could say, of the Loudlands. On that 12th of December last year, I hit publish on the very first episode. And I would be wrong if I didn't tell you there was a mix of nerves. I was very ragey actually at the time about gatekeeping in photography, and I had this absolute stubborn urge to take up space in an industry that often tells people to simmer down and doesn't like blunt and direct people despite saying that they do. I wanted to talk about what I wanted to talk about. I didn't want to gatekeep things, and I wanted it to be a podcast that was very much in keeping with what I did. So I started it. I hit record, and there I was. So let's talk about what this last year has actually looked like. So there were naysayers who said that the podcast industry was oversaturated and that I didn't have a voice, that I should have not done one. I had imposter syndrome that slapped me about for a few episodes. And I will say, my earlier episodes, I spoke too fast. I sort of didn't have a script as such. I still don't really have a script. I have points that I want to talk about, but as you can hear in often these, I go off script and add a bit of my own humor in. There was episodes that honestly I didn't air because I recorded them and then was like, I think that's a lawsuit once I burn, or maybe I went a bit too ranty. But there's ones that I recorded that really went crazy and amazing. But what really happened was that I was getting up and recording batches of these episodes. I would have a moment of inspiration and I'd do 5 episodes and stagger them out. I would record episodes. One of them I recorded at Midtgard in the middle of Oslo. One of them I recorded in my friend's apartment in Oslo. One of them I recorded in a hide in Estonia. I mean, I recorded episodes wherever I could hook my mic up and get a Wi-Fi signal. I was recording. But what more came about was this community that built itself around the show. Photographers, creative business owners, burnt out freelancers, baby photographers, studio owners, and anyone who loved a bit of creative chaos. But more so, I didn't realize just how appealing my show would be to people who weren't photographers, people who said, look, it might be about photography, but I learned so much and I'm a hairdresser. I'm a sewer, not sewer, a costumier. And it really, really hit with me that maybe I was doing really good and this is something that I should keep doing. So for a whole year, I have been doing episodes. It started off, I would do lots of episodes, and now I've pretty much done it down to one every 5 days, one every week. But I want to drop some stats for you. Okay, Spotify has said, excuse me, that the Loudlands is a 2025 most shared show. You shared my show 95% more than any other show, right? They also said that it was a talked about show. There was more comments than 78% of all podcasts, and listeners stuck around longer than 84% of other shows, which means people were marathon listening. And for a show that started with one mic, a cup of decaf coffee, and some pretty stubborn determination, I am effing proud. I'm borderline between hyper proud, chuff proud, and slightly emotional because I didn't. Okay, I will just say, it means something to grow something in public, right? It's hard, because everyone loves the highlight reel, the rap stats, the praise, the wins, but behind closed doors, there's a lot more going on. I lost friends who I remember telling the photographer that I was going to do this podcast, and he literally said to me, who the F are you? Well, he swore. He said, who the F are you to do a podcast? No one's going to listen to you. And I was like, that's the point. There are people who listen to me. There are people who come to my seminars already. Why can't I do that? And he's like, you're just going to give away all your business ideas. How are you going to mentor? Because people can listen to this and then realize, actually, I want a one-to-one on with Khandie. I want her to do seminars at my events. And it did. It did start to, there were people who drift off. There were people who'd asked to be on an episode as well. And I declined them. Not because I didn't have the time, but also because they just didn't align with how I was, because I got to know them and I got to know about them. And some people are just not suitable for this podcast. They were like, oh, can I review my answers before you publish them? Can you do this? And I was like, that kind of goes against it. I don't want you to clean up. I want you to be as authentic as possible. And I was very careful who I got. I mean, I've only had 3 guests on. So I've had Matt Curtis, I've had Gavin Hoey, and I've also had Jonathan, who's an event photographer in London, in Oslo. I was really, and obviously, again, there's Phil as well from Estonia. There's been a few actually. Now I think about it, there's been a few. But what I found was that some people got irritated at me. Every time I put an episode out, there'd be somebody who would message me and go, "Great, now that's what I teach. Why are you telling people that?" I remember a marketer going mad at me because apparently they had basically identified themselves in one of my scenarios I put about bad marketing. And she said, "Well, that's what I do. And you've just trashed me." I said, "No one would assume it's you unless it's categorically says it's you." And actually, it wasn't about her. It was a generic one that I'd found. And I got that people were getting their noses put out of joint by this podcast. And I was like, why do you care? Everything you're saying is in the public domain. I'm allowed to have an opinion on it. Just like everyone's an asshole. We can talk out of it. Why does it matter if I have an opinion on what you're doing? I'm not calling you out by name, but I'm very rarely calling anything out by name. There's a few times I've done it, but it has because I've got the receipts, as the cool kids say. But I wanted people to understand that I stood by what I said, right? I stood by exactly who I was. No gatekeeping, no BS. And it did mean that I got judged for having confidence, I would say. They said I was gobby. I'm okay with being gobby if that's how you think it. It's funny, isn't it? Women are gobby, men aren't. Just a little dig there. I got told that I was being too much, too blunt, too opinionated, and dare I say even too honest. I was like, how can you be too honest when you're reviewing gear or when you're talking about customers? Like, well, how are you being too honest? But I think my biggest and favorite insult/compliment was, who the F does she think she is? I was in a queue for a coffee at the photo and video show, and someone was in front of me literally talking about my seminar I'd just done. And then they go, and she's got a podcast. And I was like, oh, yay. No, in fact, it wasn't the photo and video show. Was it the photo and video show? Yes, it was the photo and video show. I'm just making sure I have my facts right. And I was at this coffee bar and they were talking about it. And I was like, I was quite, it was quite fortunate I was there. But they basically said, like, who the hell does you think she is? No one's listening to that. Well, you guys listen and you guys stood. And do you know what? I'm really glad that I pissed people off enough that they want to talk about me in the coffee queue. When they turned around and saw me, I said, I heard what you said. Their faces dropped. And they are people that I have in the past hung out with. I'm very cool. You can have an opinion on me. It's not going to change how I feel about what I do. I just think it's really shady that you asked to be on my one of my episodes, and then when I said maybe later because the episodes I was doing didn't align with you, you then go on to slate me. So I know who you are. I'm not going to call you out publicly, but just know that I won't forget that. But I also think it's really nice that if people are talking about you, maybe you're doing something right. Because if it feels right to you, it's possibly okay. It's this whole idea is that I'm too much. Someone said to me, I'm too much. Is it just that you're used to too little? Is it that you don't like sharing the space? Is it because you think you own the space? Because if I am too much, move back. If I am too much, take up more room so there's nothing for me to take up. Why do I have to diminish myself to make you feel better? It's different if I was rude, if I was aggressive in some way, but this isn't just me talking about it. And I know I'm rambling now, but I want someone out there who understands the whole reason I started this podcast was because I got sick to death of going on seminars and listening to seminars and people are like, tell me your why. Why are you a photographer? What is your reason? Where did this passion burn from? I'm all about that, but also I want to pay my bills, bitch. I want to pay my freaking bills, okay? I do photography because I don't want to work for somebody else. I enjoy what I do, but I want it to pay for me, okay? So I can keep enjoying it. I want to tell you now, you can't build something as real as what we're doing without pissing somebody off. And you have to decide whether you're here to please people or to help people. And I chose the latter because the former will knacker you the F out, okay? Because real education, real conversation, and real change, it doesn't happen when you walk yourself down to appease to the less, I don't want to say fragile, but the people who are less. That's it, the people who are less. It happens when you speak loudly enough that the right people find you, right? And clearly they found this show because I can see it now. You guys have been incredible. This podcast opened more doors than I could have expected. Photographers reached out saying episodes got them booked again or quitting toxic clients, which just made me laugh because I literally just got an email about that. Or about raising their rates. Guest collaborations. People were reaching out more to photographers, educators, PAs, specialists to share their insight with one another. And also, people were talking to me and offering an insight onto my episodes. There were semi-viral, I say semi-viral moments, like when I wore the hijab, talking about the hijab, it sparked real cultural discussion with respect and client experience. There was mentoring requests, which built the foundation for my mentoring program. And I was able to launch that more publicly. I'd already felt like I shouldn't have been mentoring because I was worried what other people think. And in fact, I started to share the good news of what my mentoring students, were getting their wins because it was important. Because if they win, I'm a good mentor. If they don't win, we need to go back to the program. There was community growth across Facebook groups, YouTube crossover, and even bringing new clients into my own photographic studio who would listen to me on the Loud Lens. And let's not forget, the Loud Lens became a space where creatives could finally say what they were afraid to admit. And they let me do it. It was me talking about burnout, that I was stuck and feeling creative, that I thought I was the only one who felt the way I felt about the industry. I needed someone else to say it out loud, was one person said. I needed someone else to scream it in the face because I was sick of screaming it myself. And one person who really made me lovely sent me a bunch of flowers to my studio, and the flowers literally just said, "Thank you for saying what I see in the photographic industry." And I was like, what? That got me a bit emotional. I didn't do this to make friends. I did this because I wanted people to feel not alone. I know it sounds really weird. Like, I guess is a good marketing ploy. Yes, of course, having a podcast is a great thing. But actually calling some of this stuff out and saying what it is. And sometimes everyone else knows it's going on, but sometimes it's just nice to know somebody else is saying it, okay? This show did not become one of the most shared shows because it was polished. I think it became one of the most shared because it's human. I swear I miss out. One episode I burped in it, if you remember. And another one I fell off the chair. I hiccuped. That one I kept it in for ages because I could redo it, but this is me. This is exactly who I am. So I just want to talk to you really quickly. Starting this podcast was a lot harder than I thought it was because although I had all these ideas about what I wanted, I did have a wobble where I thought people were going to judge me because there are big podcasts out there, people with huge entities, and people telling me, "Oh, you need to video it, you need to do this." I don't always want to video this because I don't want it to be about the aesthetics of me. I want it to be about what I tell you because we're already conditioned to try and fit into a mold with photography. We as photographers have to look a certain way, it seems. There's always this perception that we have to, and I was tired of that. And yes, I video some and I still do my YouTube channel, but I also try to do separate topics on both. Yes, the podcast from here feeds over onto my YouTube and it's there to exist if you want to watch it on YouTube. But I also wanted to have practical and more opinion pieces that were separate from one another. So I have both, which is a great time to go find them all, by the way. I mean, I could shut up and do what other photographers do, keep it glossy, keep it safe, and keep it all sweet, but it's not me. And I've proved something this year. I want you to say, I want you to say it with me. Maybe not. Maybe you, can you say it with me? Be like a marching band, wouldn't it? There's room for blunt honesty in a world full of filtered BS. There is room for brutal honesty in a world full of filtered BS. I love that. I think, yeah. There's room for you exactly as you are. And if someone doesn't like your voice, that's their problem, not yours. I'm very proud of this show and I'm proud of every single guest, listener, and every message I get, especially the ones that say, "Please don't stop, I need this." Or the woman who rang me up to tell me how much it meant to her to understand that people, even like me, which I don't know if you know what it means, feels like an imposter at sometimes. So here's to year 2, where I plan on being even louder, bolder, smarter, and more unhinged if I can be in the best possible way. Because I think we still need to hear it. I'm not here to talk about essentially gear. Maybe down the level there'll be some gear reviews. But honestly, this is the business side, the woes, the troughs, the peaks, whatever it is about being a photographer, from studios to weddings to macro to beauty to whatever. This is where we talk about it. This isn't me asking what your why is. This is me saying what actually is upsetting you, what's getting to you, what's hurting you, what are your pain points. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the stupid stories, the anecdotes. Let's talk about it. Let's share it. Let's be really honest. Because I created the Loud Lens because I couldn't find that anywhere. And that's something that resonated with me. So if the Loud Lens has helped you, inspired you, pissed you off enough to take action, or made you feel less alone in this very weird photography world, I would love to hear from you. Send me a message, drop a comment, tag the podcast. Tell me what episode hit the hardest for you this year. And if you want to help celebrate this milestone, why don't you share this episode? Because I'd love to get that stat back for 2026. And let's kick off my second year with a massive bang. I'm here to do what I'm going to do. You know, I live this life and I'm very proud of living this life. I am Khandie motherfucking Reese. You are not getting rid of me that easily.